Well, welcome to this preview of the Norwich game at the weekend. As you can see, I'm joined by Jeff. Jeff, how are you?
Been better.
Yeah, week's not been too great, has it?
It's not been too great. We've got another must-win game coming up, haven't we? So, trying to be positive.
It feels like every match that goes past, it feels like this is even more of a litmus test to see how capable we are and if we are actually going to escape relegation.
I totally agree. The writing's on the wall at the moment, and it's been a bit of a perfect storm. We've got injuries, we've got players out of form, got players not with the right attitude, maybe because they're out of contract or looking for moves elsewhere. We've got a manager who's perhaps doubting himself. I think you can see that from some of the selections that he's been making. That comes at a time where everybody else is picking up points around us. So it's been a tough few months.
It's not just a big game for us as well. Norwich are desperate for points. Maybe they'll have a bit more pressure because they're at home, perhaps, do you think?
They're going to have a big crowd behind them.
Yeah.
They're going to have a lot of pressure on them. Although I actually think it's slightly easier because they've had quite a tough run of fixtures. They're going to look at this game and think this is a real must-win for us, and that's going to be tough. It's going to be, we can be under no illusions. It's not going to be an easy fixture.
Been a lot of talk about Eddie Howe on the forums, on Facebook, on Twitter, etc., about whether he's the man to take us forward. As you may have seen on the podcast, you may have seen a 20-minute rant from me. It's in the description below. Put it in the changing room, lads. I do still think he's the man, but he's not faultless. He's got things wrong. Tactical decisions, I think, were wrong. Even at the weekend, to completely change your midfield seemed a little bit bizarre. Where's the continuity? The core of the side has just gone. And then we've seen individual matches where sort of Ake's been moved out to the left, where he's been ineffective. When you think of our core centre defenders, our strongest lineup, it's Cook and Ake. Why would he change that? It just seems a bit bizarre. You have to question some of his decisions, but I still think he's the man, probably best place to get us out of it. What are your thoughts on Eddie?
It's going to be difficult for any manager coming in to take this squad of players and make a massive difference. And Eddie is part of the DNA of the club. I think he deserves our support. He'd be the first to admit, I think, and he has admitted that he's made mistakes in this run, and I'm sure 100% he wants to put it right. The question is, can he put it right? He's had bigger tests in the past. We shouldn't forget that he was the manager who came in when we were at -17 and saved us. So he's come out of impossible positions before and done it. This feels slightly different. I think the difference probably is in the balance of the players that he's got. There are a number of players who have come up with him from the Championship that he's been incredibly loyal to, and perhaps what is one of the issues that he's struggling with is who does he remain loyal to, and the players that have come in, do they have that same invested sense of I want the club to succeed that some of those players had, and that's tough to manage that. I think.
That's one thing I said on that 20-minute rant, was that there are a number of new players that come in that perhaps don't understand the fabric of the football club. There are players that I think that might not even know how many minus points we were on that season. That's how much they don't really know about us. Of course, you can revert back to your Franos, your Charlie Daniels if fit, and all those kind of players who understand it, but technically they're not up to those levels anymore. So you've got to be playing the new players. But I don't know. It just feels like they've not got the emotional investment, and I think Eddie Howe will be trying to get that sort of message across, maybe by showing a few videos. They in the training pavilion behind us, they've got a sort of lecture theatre where they often show videos and sort of motivational things. Just hope that they can do that. I do still think that he is the man to do it, and he's got a sort of higher moral compass than anyone in the club. He's got so much pressure on him. He is the club, and I think he knows that. despite the fact that he says it's a collective thing, he is a linchpin for the club, and he's got pressures from, you know, not just the footballing side, but, you know, commercially as well. There are members of staff that are getting it in the neck because can't get certain deals over the line in terms of sponsorship. Well, it's not their fault. There's a lot riding on him, so I think he's the best place. Whereas someone else to come in is, in a way, it'd be good because they can just concentrate on the football. But I think Eddie's got that all-encompassing, conscience that he has to deal with.
And first and foremost, it starts with performances on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you did your rant, you were rightly pointing out that the players need to make the difference. They need to play with that heart that characterised the club in its rise up the divisions. We need to identify a different leadership group. You know, that the people like that we've perhaps relied on for leadership in the past maybe don't have the respect of other players, perhaps. So let's look at who those leaders are. I think Jefferson Lerma has to be a leader in that midfield. I'd like to see Lewis Cook given greater prominence because I think he's got it.
Can he be a leader, Jefferson, if he can't even speak the language though? Well, apparently not great still.
Look, one of the coaches that we've got is a Spanish-speaking coach, exactly. So you know he can lead the people perhaps that by example is what it's about. And when he plays well, we tend to play better. We need him. Callum Wilson needs to be a leader. And I think that he's got a really important role, almost as a senior pro within the team. That everybody respects his goal scoring record. Doesn't matter whether you came up from the Championship or whether you were one of the Premier League players. He's an England international. He's got to play like one, he's got to lead like one, and bring others to that level with him. Look at Troy Deeney. Look what he did for Watford. That's what we need from Callum.
We did get a number of questions and comments submitted over Twitter. There've been a few interesting things happening in the week, not least Simon Francis's comments in the Bournemouth Echo that effectively he said, well, you know, it is our philosophy to play out from the back and we shouldn't be lowering our standards in terms of hoofing up the pitch. What did you make of that?
Misguided. I think we need to be more pragmatic. We need points. The way we're going to get points is, first of all, number one, by keeping clean sheets. Keeping clean sheets. We're playing like an under-11s team at the moment. The most attacking piece of play from the opposition is give us a goal kick. It's ridiculous. We've got to be more pragmatic. Stick a couple of the big midfielders out on the wings and hoof it up to them if you're not convinced that Callum's going to win the ball or Solanke's going to win the ball. In fact, you know, we've got to do something different.
We used to, I mean, I wouldn't say hoofing it, but we used to play these measured balls up the pitch through the channels that Wilson would always run onto. But nowadays he just seems so flat-footed and always in the wrong position. And even if he does get to it first, you're not confident anymore that he can hold it up. And it's part of the problem. And once he held it up, then we could all move forward as a unit. But as it is, I don't think our defence trust him to hold it up at the moment because they're holding back. And as a result, when the ball is pumped forward, on the few times we've done it, we've lost it. Huge gaps in the middle of the park, and teams like Watford find it easy to exploit us.
They did, and I'm sure Norwich are looking at the way we played last couple of games and thinking that they'll try and do exactly the same things. We just got to be smarter and be crisper in the way we get the ball forward, quicker with it, because I think Callum will benefit from that. If you give him if he's got the confidence to know that the ball's going to be played there, he probably will make more runs. That's about team cohesion. And do
you think we have had too many new players chucked into the mix so quickly?
Injuries have played a part in that, so it's not completely Eddie's fault, but I think playing a number of players out of position or trying to get them to play in a way that they're not used to, or learning the game, how we play, has been difficult. But you know, we've got to draw a line over what's happened and play afresh. And playing afresh means we've got to play it quicker, we've got to be more incisive, and we've got to be less predictable from goal kicks. Big time. Relatively
good news, well, so far. I mean, it's always, you wonder whether these press releases about Chelsea not being interested in Nathan Ake, I don't know how true that is, because bearing in mind there's 15 days or so left in the transfer window, you kind of think, is it some kind of lip service and then they're going to come in at the end? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to put, I don't know the whole sort of philosophy behind it, but if they're not interested, that's positive, isn't it?
I'm optimistic that Nathan will stay.
Yeah.
If we can keep him beyond January, it becomes more difficult for him to leave. I think
Yeah.
that's widely known. So let's hope that he does stay. Maybe Eddie playing him at left back was to put Chelsea off, play him out of position. He needs to play centre half. We need to get Cook and Ake back as a unit together in the centre of defence. We need to get Ramsdale back, and we need to play with recognisable fullbacks. At the moment, I would predict that will probably be Adam Smith and Diego Rico.
Yeah.
Frano, in his remarks the other day, I think he's a centre half cover at the moment. The way we are.
Starting to rain a little bit now, so we will wrap up soon. And as you can see, my piece of paper has just turned into papier-mâché here. How many points do you reckon we need for safety this
40.
season? Yeah, 40. Because people are picking up points, and notoriously in that second half of the season, teams do pull wins out the bag.
Yep.
I think it's going to be 40 again, isn't it?
We need 6 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah,
I've worked it out.
Yeah, and it's it has to start on Saturday, and I think if it doesn't, then it's looking harder than ever before, isn't it? I think the bookies have got us in one of the 3 favourites now.
Oh, look, clearly we are one of the weakest teams playing the worst football in the division at the moment. I would say it's us and Burnley playing the worst football, and Burnley have a way to win. We don't.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We've got to score goals, and we've got to stop conceding them. Football's a simple game.
What's the thoughts on? I mean, some people have said that is there unrest in the changing room, which is not necessarily a bad thing if it motivates players, but sometimes I just think there perhaps does need to be another voice, because I think when you've got one manager trying to instill a philosophy, these players know that philosophy, and they for the last 4 or 5 years have adhered to it, and we've had a lot of success from it. But when players are played out of position and when certain choices are made by management, I can imagine there's a little bit of like, oh my goodness, what's he doing? And I can imagine when Eddie Howe's ranting in their changing room, the players are almost regarding him as a King Lear type figure, thinking he's mad. Does it need someone else to come in and say, actually, what Eddie's saying is right, it's you guys that need to step up?
Well, potentially a senior figure might be good. I mean, ultimately
football,
we don't have a director of football.
Yeah.
Who is that person going to be? The obvious choice would be Harry Redknapp, because he's not doing anything and he's really connected with the club and used to be a manager, and I'm sure there's a lot of respect for him, but is it really that sort of role for Harry?
No.
Harry's more like, you want to get a player from Romania that nobody's ever heard of before for like 10 grand, and he turns out to be a superstar of the future. That's Harry's strength. Tactically, I think a coach like Ancelotti, who's just landed at Everton, is obviously making a difference there, but those coaches are thin on the ground, and I can't see Eddie taking anybody who's going to take over the coaching. I mean, why would you? You'd walk, wouldn't you?
And that will undermine him.
Yeah.
That will undermine him.
Yeah, so not going to happen. Our best chance is for Eddie to pull the team together and sort it out.
It's interesting that Mark McAdam on Twitter said that we are actively looking to recruit in this window, more probable loan signing. So that gives us a little, bit of a boost, maybe.
I've heard that too. There's talk of a striker from Stoke coming, whose record is 4 goals this season in 20 games. So that doesn't fill you with a great deal of confidence, does it?
No.
If it's a loan signing, I wish there was a Kenwyne Jones type character out there, because he made a difference when he came in a few seasons back. Not sure that there is anyone of that calibre, and that probably needs to be a creative midfield player, I think.
So as you can see, whilst we've been talking, we've retired to the relative shelter underneath the tree, because it is not great out there. I was just saying just before, we edited this together, as you can see, but I was reading The Athletic, an article on there about the negative feeling within the club. I was feeling relatively optimistic up until I read this article, and it said if we go down, it could be catastrophic for the club.
Yeah, I think it could be. You can see a number of our quality players would leave, but honestly, it could go 2 ways. I think Sunderland dropped like a stone. It took a few years for them to reset. They're making a bit of a comeback, and arguably teams like Burnley stuck with the manager and made an instant return. Newcastle did the same. I know they're different clubs, but there's an argument either way. Who knows what could happen? I think the Championship is a tough division to get out of. Whether we would bounce straight back, I think it would be very difficult because I think a lot of players would leave. However, let's focus on this season. We've still got 16 games to go.
Yeah, people are thinking too far ahead and almost negatively. I mean, it's good to you think that far ahead and plan, but there is still time, and we have got it in us to pull performances out of the bag, and we know it's the players rather than what we do. Tactically, there are a few decisions, but the players have clearly been underperforming, and my thoughts revolve around a team formation actually that I sort of said to Jeff earlier that I think this could work. This is what I would like from the weekend. What we'll do is we'll put it up on screen now, and I'll talk you through it. So it's good to have Ramsdale. He'll be back. There was some tissue damage or something apparently with regards to one of his muscles. That will be fine. Rico, Ake, Cook and Smith. Frano I don't think should be involved. Maybe put him on the bench, maybe wheel him on for the last 5 minutes if we've got some kind of lead. I'd like to have 5 in the middle, and that I would like Sermon to be one of 3 centre midfielders in the middle, but just being that defensive anchor. He can spray it wide really quickly, and mainly out to the left because he's left-footed, but it's fast, it's quick, and as a result the other 2 I'd have probably Lerma and maybe Gosling, because having Cook in there as well, you've got Sermon and Cook are fairly similar, and they both spray it out wide, and Gosling that disruptor, but Sermon to get the ball out wide really quickly. And then on the wings I'd have either Ryan Fraser will be one of them, and then the other Harry Wilson or Solanke. He's played out wide a couple of times before, but he can do a job, not a Josh King-esque job like he did against Everton at home, which I thought was really good, but he can provide a lot of pace down that wing. And I think as much as Callum Wilson's been poor, I don't think Sam Surridge is going to get in there, and I think Wilson could play up front on his own. But what that it does do, as you can see on screen now, it can easily morph into a 4-3-3 where Solanke and Fraser, or Harry Wilson and Fraser, can move up the pitch, and then when we're attacking 4-3-3 and come back, drop back into a 4-5-1 maybe. Thoughts on what you think should happen personnel wise, Jeff?
Increasingly the problem position is the right side of midfield. I think that is where we don't have anybody that's a natural for that role, with Danjuma out, with Harry Wilson being played there but not doing the job that we need him to do. Adam Smith's too defensive to do that role, so I don't think it would work with Frano and Smith in front of him. So it's the difficult position. You've got to play somebody out of position, I think, there. Maybe Lewis Cook, because he did that for us at Chelsea and it worked. I know it didn't work against Burnley, but it did work against Chelsea, so maybe that could work again. And I think I'd feel happier if we revert to that sort of formation, with Callum playing the role that Josh King played against Chelsea, because that worked for us that day. There was belief in the team. They enjoyed that result. They enjoyed the performance. We played well. We need to rediscover that, and quickly. Can
I push you for a head versus heart prediction then? If you're going with your heart, I presume a Bournemouth win maybe?
If I'm going with my heart, a 1-0 for us.
But what are you thinking?
If I'm going with my head, a 3-0 to Norwich.
Oh my god, so that's I'm kind of going 1-0 and 1-1. I think there's got to be a reaction. There has to be. If there isn't, we should go down, and it's rightful for Premier League football that we do go down, because we don't want to be gracing the Premier League any longer with stuff like that. I think it's right that we do go down if we play badly. So this is the match where there needs to be a reaction. Go for a 1-1. But if I'm going with my heart, I'm going to go for a 1-0. So we will see. Let's
see. Part of this video is a pep talk for the players to prove us wrong. Because it's down to them.
Exactly. And if you have any doubts about we think that Eddie Howe being the right man, as I say, check our description, and we do I do give players a little bit of advice, let's say it that way, about what they need to do to up their game. But Jeff, once again, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Sam.
And we'll see you in the next video. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.